being Lottie became widowed on Valentine's Day. It was her favorite time of the year. She and her husband, Leonard Redick, had planned on being married on Valentine's Day, but they married in December instead of 2004. Lottie didn't know that Leonard had passed away. She hadn't seen him for many years due to the PTSD they both shared from the war syndrome. No one told her that he had passed away, and she felt him, she heard him, and she saw him. For 4 days, every day she saw him. In between, while she's watching television and doing different things, she didn't think anything of it until with each memory, she felt a weird feeling like, is he passed away? Not in a wonder, but truly in her soul, she felt it, that he come to her. She took pictures at the door to reveal his spiritual light. As she is a clairvoyant, and so many has come to her, even those that didn't believe before they passed away and saw the truth. And he come to her inside of his time of crossing over. And during his time in the beginning of crossing over before his death. In that whole week, every day, she saw his face and memories and future, present visions. It's hard to explain with words. She felt his presence. Each person has a different vibration, such as fingerprints are all different. Familiar and similar, but different. She recognized the soft parts of his spirit that came to her, not the hard parts that he had to betray to survive for his whole life, even before the war, growing up in Stowe Village in Connecticut, where it was also a war zone. Before he was 5 feet tall, he experienced this. He spoke of it many, many times to Lody. He spoke of it not in fear, but with a slight kind of weird smile that only comes after so much trauma that you don't cry all the time. You just smile. It's not a funny smile. It's a emotional breakdown that has been repaired but never, never, never fixed. So the smile is not a smile of joy. It's just a little bit of, oh God, thank God that's over and I don't have to go through that again. But that's what happened and it was horrible and I remember it, kind of smile that you got through it and it's over. But it's never all the way over in your mind. Even as though we used to sit and watch cowboy movies all the time and basketball games in every season. And as long as he was watching his basketball games, Lottie was happy and pleased to be in the other room watching cooking channels and doing and practicing how to make yeast bread and different things like that. As long as he had his cowboy movies, and sometimes Lottie watched, such as Wyatt Earp. As long as he had his cowboy movies on the weekends or weekdays on cable or whatever we had to watch, he was bearable as far as his PTSD war syndrome. He was very, very quiet and bearable as long as he was occupied with something like gothic or something of a superhero movie that could keep him calm. And as long as he was calm, she remained calm. And as long as he was calm and he didn't mind what that she would sit and watch some stuff with him and then go in the other room and watching what she wanted to watch, her little cooking programs while she crocheted. And he always went out to the store every day to get things that Lottie needed because Lottie had bursitis and arthritis since age 21. So he always had to go to the store and take care of things. And he had no problem doing that. And he had no complaints doing that because he preferred her to be inside. He preferred that she didn't have to go anywhere. So he had no problem going out every day. He would always be back between 4 and 7 hours. He would never stay out longer than 7 hours away from home, whether he had a job or whether he was out hustling or in the name of not in any way that she knew of that was wrong, but going to his mother's house, cooking for her, full dinner for her and her sister. He just enjoyed doing that. He had two brothers living at home with his mom, but he enjoyed going over there and cooking for her, the whole family, and then coming back home to Lottie. Sometimes Lottie went with him, but most of the time she stayed home because she had problems with her arthritis and bursitis in her legs and arms and hands. And he knew that, and he was happy because he knew that she wasn't going out anywhere. Lottie and Leo separated many times, but never legal. She took him to the Veterans Affairs many times. He took her also when he had appointments, and Lottie would go in the back room of the Veterans Affairs clinic to do artwork because they always have art in the back. You can make things, or you can color, or you can paint, or there's different things you can do. He liked bringing her with him because that way he knew where she was. He knew that she loved her arts, so as long as she had something to do, he knew that she wouldn't complain much. Then they would go home and he would cook, and he would tell her that she could sit down and he did the cleaning and the cooking. And then if she felt like it, she would get up and cook, but he did the cleaning because he preferred to. He had more energy than Lottie. On Valentine's Day of 2024, Lottie felt something like depression without bad thoughts, just really tired and exhausted, mentally drained and emotionally drained and exhausted from so many triumphs that nobody needs to feel sorry for, but to know that, to admire that you can go through so many things and just keep to yourself and deal with it without feeling or thinking any negative thoughts. But Lottie kept seeing memories of him, and she hadn't been seeing floods of memories for years. So she knew something was wrong. She wanted to get in touch with his son again, but the last time she reached out to his son, the last few times, he did not answer. And when he did answer, he reported that he was not letting his father talk to anyone else that was not living there in Connecticut, including Lottie. Lottie only wanted to speak to him because she could feel him pulling her. She could feel his spirit pulling her. And now she knew why, because he needed help. He needed help, and that the help that she could give him, and she was not allowed, and he was not allowed to reach out to Lottie. He was being fully controlled. And the rest is in part 2. This is part 1 of Leo and Lottie. Lottie met Leo in 1993. He was brought by her house by a friend of hers that she knew for years. And the minute he came to her house, he fell in love with Lottie right away. Attitude and all is what some people say. Lottie has an attitude, but he loved every second of it. When Lottie was aware that he wanted her, so she tried to convince him and turn him off by being very mean and cold and horrible. And that didn't work. And weeks later, she said, well, I'll just act crazy as I can. And that didn't work either. She even said to Leo, see, I'm crazy. You don't want to date me. And he said, I don't care. I love you enough for the both of us. And he continued to say that. He was very cold, but he could be soft. No matter what happened, Lottie was always protected when he was around. And when he wasn't around, when they were sleeping in separate residences, if he found out that something happened to Lottie, he would come running. Even if she didn't call him to come running, he would come running to her house and let himself in, even though he didn't have a key. And somehow, I don't know what the military taught him, but he knew how to get into a door without breaking it. She had many witnesses to that. It happened many times. He would show up when things were happening around her. Strangers in the neighborhood try to take advantage of her because she was not streetwise. He would find out about it and he would come and sit down, come in the house and sit down. And people would leave her alone. And if they didn't, he would stand right in front of her with his arms outstretched on both sides without speaking. He would just block them from going anywhere near Lottie like a brick wall. This is part one about Leo, the Vietnam veteran who never complained about the war and never blamed anything he did on the war. He never cried out loud about the war. Lottie didn't even know about the dead bodies he had to hide underneath until she secretly viewed his paperwork. And actually, it wasn't a secret because when Leo saw her in 2012, he gave her his paperwork to examine for herself, to see everything about him that I say out loud. Lottie, the mysterious being, widowed on Valentine's Day 2024. The clairvoyant helping her husband to cross over. Her husband that didn't even believe in such things until he met Lottie and lived with her for many years and saw many evidence, so much evidence of her clairvoyancy. He couldn't deny it anymore. And in his passing, crossing, which he has not done crossing, he is still there with Lottie so she can help him. He's even helping her to make this recording to tell his story.